It's the early 1970s. You're standing in a crowded hardware store, stuck in a narrow aisle behind a wall of people. The air is stagnant, and the weight is claustrophobic. For director Tobe Hooper, this mundane frustration sparked a dark daydream. He looked at the power tools on display and imagined using a saw to clear a path through the shoppers. That intrusive thought became the seed for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hooper took the internal tension of that hardware store and projected it onto the screen, turning a common utility tool into a cinematic weapon. The film's success was so absolute that it rewrote the machine's public identity. In 90 minutes, a household tool became the universal symbol of unhinged backwoods violence. This terrifying reputation is a historical accident. While the screen version takes lives, the real machine was designed to spare them by ending the era of back-breaking physical labor. The mechanism that terrifies audiences actually shares its DNA with 18th century surgery. Scottish doctors realized that a small rotating loop of serrated metal could easily cut through human bone during difficult births, faster than a traditional blade, proving the efficiency of the moving chain long before it ever touched a tree. To understand how this medical concept became a logger salvation, we really have to look past the Hollywood slashers and deep into the brutal reality of the early timber industry. Logging in the early 1900s was a massive industrial undertaking. Processing old-growth forests required entire camps of men and a heavy reliance on animal and steam power to move the massive weight of the timber. Felling a single tree was a feat of raw endurance. Every inch of progress through the trunk was bought with human muscle, often leaving workers physically spent before the tree even hit the ground. This is the manual crosscut saw, a simple blade that required two men to work in a grueling, synchronized rhythm. It was a slow battle against friction, with the dense wood fighting the blade every step of the way. To mechanize this process, the industry first turned to a machine known as the drag saw. Using a reciprocating piston, the drag saw mimicked human push and pull, driving a blade through a horizontal log tirelessly. But it had a fatal limitation. Its massive engine had to be anchored to the ground. You couldn't lift it to fell a standing tree. Transitioning from the forest floor to the trunk required a dramatic reduction in weight without losing torque. Engineers had to find a way to shrink a 200-pound engine into a handheld unit that was light enough to lift, yet powerful enough to drop a 3-foot-thick tree. In 1926, German engineer Andreas Stiel took on this weight-to-power puzzle. His goal was to create a tool that could go anywhere a logger could walk. His first attempt was an electrically powered unit. By mounting the motor directly to the cutting chain, he removed the need for the massive external engines of the drag saw. Despite the innovation, this early model weighed 106 pounds. It was technically portable, but it still required immense effort for two men just to hold it steady against a trunk. The Great Depression stalled the tool's adoption even further. With manual labor at record low prices, few logging operations were willing to invest in heavy, unproven machinery. Still continued to iterate, focusing on weight reduction and engine efficiency. He worked through the 30s, stripping away bulk and refining the internal combustion motor. By 1930, he reached the turning point. Still debuted the first-ever single-person chainsaw. This was the moment the machine transitioned from a piece of industrial equipment into a personal handheld tool. After World War II, this lightweight design took over the forests. Stiel's saws could fell a standing tree in a fraction of the time it took a crosscut crew, making the stationary drag saw obsolete almost overnight. This speed changed the economics of the landscape. A job that once required a team of 3 men and an entire morning could now be handled by one person in less than 10 minutes, clearing the way for the rapid expansion of post-war housing. This brings us back to that hardware store aisle in 1974. The machine on that shelf was the result of a 50-year quest to relieve human suffering and automate the most grueling physical labor in the world. It is the ultimate cinematic irony. A tool built specifically to save us from pain was transformed by a single film into our most visceral symbol of horror.